Hi, and welcome to week 1 of Writing from Your Gut. I am really excited for this workshop, and I hope that you are too. We're going to start out writing what might turn out to be notes towards an essay or what might turn out to be a collage essay. I'm hoping that to begin, we will focus by thinking of any of the holidays of the season. It might be Kwanzaa, it might be Christmas, it might be Thanksgiving. And the first assignment that I'm going to ask you to do is to write first a menu. What are the dishes that are always on the table for your family? Just write it out, be as inclusive as you can be. This can include things that maybe we wouldn't even normally think of as dishes. For instance, at my mother's house, one of the things that's always offered is this same bottle of white wine that's been sitting on her sideboard with a cork in it for many, many years, because nobody drinks when they're at my mother's house, because if you were to take some of that wine, one, I'm sure by now it's just vinegar residue, but two, even if it were wine, you might get a little side eye. So I want you to think about all of the things that are on that table. Then after you do that and you have your good list, and I would say you probably want at least 10 and maybe as many as 25 things, then I want you to write one paragraph just describing each one, not giving its story, not giving its history, just giving a really rich, thick description. The real goal for this piece, and again, it may turn out to be a great collage essay and you may revise it into something that's final and publishable, but for now our goal is to start engaging with the sense memories that come from these big holiday meals and the way in which those sense memories can help us get to other memories, can help us find the things that are going to be the most productive for us in our writing, and let us create really intimate, personal, but also accurate reflections on our lives in the past, on what it means to come together communally over the holidays, on how family works, on wherever it is that these essays take us. Because although we're going to be exploring the connection between memory and food and using the holidays as a way to do that, we're not going to be writing essays necessarily about food. In fact, I've been going through this process ahead of teaching the workshop to make sure that it was productive for me, or it would be silly for me to ask you to do it. And I found that the essay that I've ended up with only very casually mentions the Hanukkah foods that you would have found on our table growing up. And it actually engages more with the foods that weren't there, with things like the Christmas ham and figgy pudding and Christmas cookies, things that we didn't have and that I really longed for, and that eventually enough of us longed for that my mother broke down and we did have them. And it's the story of sort of compromise. And it began, though, with this list of latkes and kugel, and because my mother's kind of just only knows how to make one set of Jewish dishes, there were also a lot of things that don't usually go on a Hanukkah table. We would sometimes have charosses amorer, which, if you aren't Jewish, are things that you only ever have at Passover. But she wanted to give us the full banquet of Jewish food for Hanukkah. She grew up without a mother, and she didn't really know how to make many of these things. And in rural Appalachia, there weren't people to teach her. And so our Hanukkah table, as the 8 nights went on, became more and more sort of like food from her reading vocabulary about Jewishness and things. And I'm really pleased with how that essay is going, and this was where I started. So I hope that it's going to end up feeling generative for you too. I'm going to ask that you work on this through Tuesday, and you'll see that there are also some readings. And I'm going to give you some essays about like individual foods. And I want you to think about the way in which one individual food can be the basis for a whole piece, and the way in which these pieces use that food as a starting out point and then grow forward. And we'll have a discussion about that on the discussion boards. But this piece, the piece where you're going to create a menu and write a 1-paragraph sense description of whatever it is that's on that list. And if to get to as many as you want, you find that you have to include things like the silverware and the way that it made the room smell like silver polish, because the silverware was only ever brought out and polished, say, for big family dinners. That's absolutely fine. You just want something where you can get good sensory memory, and work on this list over the week. And then I'm going to ask you to send it to me, and there'll be a link to do that down below. And I'm going to then take that and give you feedback and say, look, I feel like there's a really generative spot here, or this one feels like it could use some more development. I get the sense that there's something here that's not quite working, but I can feel the tension in this section, and what can you do with this? Or just, this is really great. Give us more of this. To help you find the places where there's the most interest and the most tension in what you've written so far. And then we will move on next week to blowing one of these out into something a little bit bigger, something that's a little bit more a history of the food and its importance on your table, and you'll be choosing one thing, which we're sort of reading a week ahead all along, because in the last week, you're not going to be reading. You're going to be really focused on getting a polished piece so that you can have sort of that final workshop and get, my goal is for each of you to leave here with a piece that you're really proud of and that's ready to go out for publication, and that I can give you some final comments on at the end, and also give you a list of places that I think would be interested in the work. So welcome. Go eat something if that helps you to remember. When I was working on my version of this, I made a box of those Manischewitz latkes. They're like, they taste like cardboard and they're gross, and they're sort of made out of mashed potato flakes, which isn't at all the way latkes are supposed to be. And while I ended up not eating them, they're not good, the smell of them was the most productive thing I could have done. So if you need to remind yourself, let's say you're writing about stuffing and you don't want to make a big batch of stuffing, go see what happens if you just fry up a couple of onions with some sage and some butter and smell that. So remember that often the connection that the food is going to make to memory is going to come as much through smell as through taste, and indulge in that. You know, go to the store and sniff a pumpkin pie candle. Do something that helps you get to that sensory information, because that's really what we're looking for. Holiday memories are often the deepest and most formative and sort of messiest, because everybody is in the same place. And often they're things that we can only access by recalling the senses that lead us there. So smell some candles, eat some food, write some stuff, and I will be in touch throughout the week. And I will also look forward to reading your things at the end of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.